KTLK AM 1150. What is going on with our numbers? We're being told on the one hand that we have added 157,000 jobs in January, and yet the unemployment rate ticked up to 7.9. The job creation was less than what analysts had expected. They were hoping for 165. In fact, in December, they were looking at 195. They're saying that this kind of job creation, it's kind of cool with this moderate growth that we're going to. But I still don't, and this is why I want to interview right now in a moment. We're going to get from Peter Mathews, our go-to guy for all things political as well as scientific, because he's both a political scientist. Here's what the statisticians are telling me. They're saying that the private sector added 166,000 jobs in January, but the government jobs went down by 9,000. And how it is that you're having more people going to work, and yet the unemployment rate is still going up. And part of it may be on people who are still applying for work and others who are not. But either way, you would think on a day like today when this was being released that the Dow would have tanked. And as you're going to hear in just a moment, it was anything but that. The Dow closed for the first time in more than 5 years above 14,000. Somebody's making bank. But I also know that one of the things that is connected to this optimism is that the Federal Reserve keeps printing money. They have been keeping interest rates to historic lows with multiple rounds of monetary stimulus. It means they're printing greenbacks. So the Dow optimistically reflecting that Wall Street says, hey, I don't care about the jobs numbers. We're still headed where we want to head. And I know Peter's going to have a lot more in-depth for me. But then late this afternoon, here's a shaker. The president has just fired. It's seldom that you see this kind of a lead sentence. President Obama has just fired / laid off his entire jobs council. I mean, does that kind of tell you how he feels about whether you're doing your job or not? Coming back, we're going to interview Peter Mathews to give us more on this, the meaning of the numbers and the unemployment, and the fact that the Dow just didn't seem to care. The Dow is just going to sky high. Peter Mathews, a college and university professor, will be with us coming up in a moment. What we're trying to do isn't enough. Maybe we need to go in a different direction. And I've said along that job credits and job training credits alone can't do it. We need an infusion of money into small business. Jay Carney, speaking for the president today, put it a little nicer than I am. Listen to his politically correct description of the decision.
The economy shrank in the quarter before he was sworn into office, in the fourth quarter of 2008, by nearly 9%. That is catastrophic, okay? Jobs were lost at a rate of 750,000 per month when he took office. There is no disputing economic, cold, hard facts that because of the policies that this president pursued, that kind of economic decline was reversed. And that's the measure of your commitment to job creation and economic growth. And the president greatly appreciates the work that the Jobs Council has done, the ideas that they've put forward, many of which the administration adopted. And he looks forward to his engagement with the the business community going forward.
Let's go to Peter Mathews now. Professor, thank you for being on the program with us on this Friday afternoon.
You bet, Dave. It's good to be with you again.
So I have several questions for you. I certainly like the optimism of the Dow, and I was frankly surprised that it closed above 14,000 despite the jobless numbers. But it seems that what really has them fueled and pumped is the fact that the Federal Reserve continues to inject currency or money into the stream in the market. They call it the monetary stimulus. Would you kindly explain to us how that works, sir?
Yes, David. They've actually been doing it since 2007. It's called quantitative easing, or QE. And so the third QE was just put in this last few months ago in 2012, and they're pumping in about $40 billion a month in 2012 in the economy. They basically print the money up. They're authorized by the Congress to do that because the Fed was set up back in 1913, and we're at the 100th anniversary right now of the Fed. In 1913, they were set up to manage the nation's money supply. When they print the money right now, they're basically buying up mortgage-backed securities and not letting the money out to small businesses. See, my view, like you just said, if they would put money directly into small business, have direct loans to them with low interest rates, and also direct hiring of people to rebuild our infrastructure, put people to work like a New Deal. Those two things would do better more than anything else, Dave, to get the economy going again. And instead they're doing this, the big banks are making money off of this kind of policy more than anything else. One more thing I should mention, though, is that the stock market is doing better because the banks have also been using some of that money, the Fed money, to invest in the stock market. That creates more demand for stock and pushes prices up higher. So it's a very precarious situation as well, although I must say the economy is improving slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. Now, okay, so again, not that I'm an economist by any stretch. I can only ask as a layman. When you look at these macro strategies, and I know that eventually some of this benefits us, down here where the rubber meets the road, but why not look at some of the more micro approaches? For instance, the Small Business Administration that in its heyday was doing so much more to work with small business owners. Today, every single entrepreneur I speak with tells me they're having the same issue. They have difficulty accessing capital.
It's very difficult. In fact, the banks, the government says if you want an SBA loan, you've got to put up your house as collateral. Go to a private bank and get the money. They're just not really helping at all. So we've got to have a political change. President Obama and others at the top need to get on this and say, let's get the money straight to the regular folks. The policemen, the firefighters, the teachers, they should keep them hired, as well as give the small businessman and woman money to expand their businesses with a government direct loan at lower interest rates. SBA could be a perfect tool for that, but it's not doing it, Dave, like you said. And I think that's to do with the way the politics of this country is going right now, mostly to help the big people, the big guy, and ignoring the little person who's the bedrock of America. So it has to be changed. The policy has to be changed, Dave.
Now, I did mention before we took a 60-second pause that in my own travels around different communities in Southern California, Professor, we're speaking with Professor Peter Mathews from Cypress College, and he is my go-to guy ever since my days at NBC. And that is this, Professor, that the workforce investment boards that are supposed to be the place where people can get jobs training that does result in getting a job, we still seem to find a disconnect between millions of dollars that are pumped into these programs. And I'm talking about they're scattered all around Southern California. We're not yet seeing the kind of demand by employers. Can you give me any indication how long before we may start to truly feel that the employers are having the confidence? And I know maybe if we knew that, you and I would both be wealthy. But
we have an idea. We do have a good idea.
Okay, give me a sense of what you see ahead for us in 2013 when employer demand will really start to see more traction.
Well, you've got to have more people hired, and that's going to take, again, rehiring these laid-off teachers, firefighters, construction workers to rebuild the infrastructure. Once that happens, then the employers will say, oh, we're going to have customers now. Now we can do the hiring. You know, there's an interesting comment that some old businessman once made to me. He said, I don't need a tax break. I need customers.
Exactly.
So to get these businesses to hire again, they've got to have demand. To get the demand going, the government needs to get the money into small business to hire two-thirds of our people, because small business hires about two-thirds of the American workforce, and also get the money into infrastructure. We could rebuild our bridges, our roads. Many of the sewer lines have been falling apart, all kinds of stuff that could be done here, not to mention creating a whole new electric grid that would work out, or a more efficient electric grid. Those things can be done. And I would say call for something like a new deal. Another new deal would help a lot to stimulate the economy, and that's when the money would be used most effectively, not just doing it the way they're doing it right now.
Well, and that was one of my criticisms of the roads improvement program, Professor, that while there was a lot of job creation if you were in the road business, in the construction of highways, and that's fine. I understand we needed to repair highways and roads, but for those of us who aren't in that industry, it seemed like we were left along the sidelines. You're talking about looking at some maybe sustainable energy projects and other things, new technologies that would put millions of people to work.
Absolutely. Even high technology. You know, the government can hire people to do research on new products. You know, for example, look at the Toyota Prius. That was invented by the Japanese because they took American technology. We invented the electric car. The Japanese government has an agency which does research and development, feeds the research to Toyota and Honda, and then they built the hybrid car. They took the technology and made it, updated it, and they sold it all over the world. So we need that kind of what I call industrial policy, Dave, where our government gets involved to some extent, like we did back in Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. We can do it again, and President Obama should project that, I think, as the goal to get going right now, because we got to use the money wisely.
And so the move today by the president to fire the Jobs Council, or to say thank you, but I'm going to move on, does that indicate or signal to you that we're going to see something different? Could this be the beginning of something fresh?
I really hope so. I'm just waiting to see here, and I think the president is on her firmer footing now. The way he won that election, with a good margin,
sure,
can really move forward now if he has good advisors and takes their advice, and also uses his own gut feeling and his intellectual analysis. He's a smart man. He knows his how the economy works. He knows history. And he knows that FDR had a great thing going back in the 30s. We have a great recession still right now. I mean, technically not, because we came out of it. But by the way, the last quarter of 2012 had a small negative growth.
Yes.
So we have another negative growth this coming quarter. That's really a recession again, a double-dip recession. We want to avoid that, and President Obama knows what needs to be done. And maybe we'll have a new movement this time by him. I hope so.
Professor Peter Mathews, thank you as always. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll speak soon.
You bet. Take care, Dave. Thank you.
Peter Mathews, a commentator and political analyst, political science professor, Cypress College. Also one of my go-to guys at NBC, CNN, and so forth, and a guy who is very, very, I think he breaks it down in a way that lay people can understand it.